I was born and raised in North Philadelphia. Anybody know about Philadelphia? Anybody from Philadelphia? All right, can Philly make some noise? All right, that's right. That's that Philly vibe. So I grew up in North Philadelphia. North Philadelphia is a challenging community, to say the least. I probably grew up in most of that challenge. So I grew up around violence, grew up around drugs, grew up around a lot of mental health, a lot of lack of access to health. There was big controversy about our school system because our school systems were failing quite dramatically. They had gotten taken over by the state a few times. If you're from Philadelphia, you already know this. But when I was 10 years old, I was removed from my mother's home with 3 siblings, and I was placed into the foster care system. And that experience dramatically changed my life, as I'm sure you could probably imagine. Initially, I was placed with my grandmother, but then a very short period later, I was split up from my 3 siblings. I was the oldest of those 3 siblings, and we were placed in lots of different places. I stayed in the system right up until I came here. And so I aged out of the foster care system and came to Penn State. This was like my kind of freedom plan. That I was in the system, I was in congregate care, I was in foster care, and the way that I was going to get out of that system was either I was going to live on my own, they were going to train me for independent living, they called it, or I was going to go to college. I was going to age out. This is all language from the system, and go to college. I aged out and went to college. And I met Sam when I was here. I had a hard time in school, a very hard time in school, because I was traumatized, from that experience. I mean, 8 years, that was like all of my adolescence. I was trying to figure out what family is, and what does it matter? Does family even matter? But came to Penn State, became a rebel rouser really early. Sam saw me rebel rousing, I think probably my 2nd month on campus or 3rd month on campus. He pulled me in to the project that he's talking about, race relations project, and that really kind of set me on this path to student leadership, I would say, but leadership in general, where I decided I wasn't going to rage as a response to my life experience, but that I was going to rebuild, and I was going to heal myself, heal others. And so I got on that healing journey. And then when I left school, I continued on it. I went back to Philadelphia, did some things in the community, ran for public office, started some businesses. And eventually I found myself in a position to use communication to try to help families heal. And so today I'm the Senior Director of Communications for Prevent Child Abuse America. It's the largest national organization that focuses on the prevention of child abuse. But our approach is a little bit different than you would think. I think the industry typically identifies bad parents.
Wait, hang on. We're going to get to that. We'll get to that.
Our approach is a family strengthening approach. And so I think that's important for you to understand about me, because as we go to the class, you'll hear this. But from my experience, I believe that that's the best approach. So that's my 4-minute bio.
Good.
How about
that? That's good. And you were vice president of the student government.
I was vice president of student government, vice president of Black Caucus when I was here. That's
Dude, when I met this guy, you were 18 when I met you?
Probably 17, probably.
17. I was like, who the hell is this guy, man? And
my hair was different then.
Yeah. My hair was different. Your hair was different. We both had long hair, I think.
Yeah.
Good. All right. And also, real quick thing, I want to just do a shout out. You are working on a book. That was you, by the way. You were a cute kid.
That was me. That was me in the 4th grade. That's a picture of me when I was in the 4th grade.
Was that before you were in foster care?
That was the year before. That picture is the year before. But if you look at it, you can see the stress on that kid's face, though. There are 2 sorority partners that we have that are national sorority partners. That's Kappa Delta and Sigma Delta Tau. Prevent Child Abuse America is similar to Thon for these 2 organizations. They've contributed millions of dollars to our organization. They're always raising awareness with our organization. So since I'm on campus, had the opportunity to be back here, I definitely wanted to give these 2 organizations a shout out for the work that they do. Is anybody from Kappa Delta or Sigma Delta Tau here?
Yeah. Anybody?
All right, shout them out. Which organization you with? That's right. That's the strongest one right there, Kappa Delta. So shout out to Kappa Delta. They do amazing work. So why don't we give them a round of applause? Come on, give them a round of applause. They really do amazing work. So thank you. Thank you. You've chosen well.
It seems like that had a big influence on your life, kind of the family situation you had growing up. And do you think it was advantageous for those experiences to happen to make you who you are now? Or would you go back and like change it and have a different life?
That's a really good question.
That's a really good question. That's a tough question. I would say if I could go back, I probably would. I'd probably change some things if I have that option. But I would say at the same time, I think you're 100% right that, you know, what happened to me and through my experience, I think I became a little bit more curious. I wasn't able to take my family for granted, you know, and so the family members that show up and the family members that work hard, it means a lot more to me, you know, from my experience. And I think also my friends, I think I'm probably a much better friend than I probably would have been if things were a little bit easier. You know, so I think if I could change my life, I probably would not. No, I'd probably keep going this route, ride this thing out and see how it goes. I mean, I'm still working on some things, you know, this isn't the last act. So I think it's getting better as we go. So,
you know, that's the odd thing about all the things that happen to us, right? And certainly somebody who's in a position like you, like the position you're in, we need people like you who have a vision and who can see things. So the two of you are here, and we're going to be going back and forth with you in the class. What's he need to know about you to be able to kind of engage you in the conversation that we're going to have?
So I'm from a city that kind of has some, and I'm from the city, but I'm from a borough that has a lot of negative associations and negative ties to it. So that's one thing. People assume the education is terrible. I would also say that something else you should probably know is that I grew up and my parents divorced when I was fairly young. And I would say that definitely raised challenges, and it kind of sort of affected my family dynamic in various ways and the person I am today. And then I would say that I'm the eldest, so that kind of is like its own thing.
My parents were never together in the first place. I mean, they were obviously together long enough to have me and my two brothers, but pretty much right after that, they split up, and we just kind of like bounced back and forth between the two of them. And there were pros and cons to each one. They didn't live in the same state either, so there was a lot of moving all over the place. Yeah, that created a lot of problems, as you can imagine. And I was also the eldest of two younger brothers, both of whom have various disabilities. So a lot of the burden of responsibility fell onto me to take care of them, make sure they were fed, going to school, and all that jazz. And that, I mean, kind of similar to what you were saying, it definitely formed who I am now. And as I said before, being a father and a husband now, I value that relationship with my wife and my son more than I could ever imagine if I didn't have those experiences. Also grew up in the ghettos and around gangs, gang violence, drugs, all that stuff. And
you did?
Yes. Yeah.
And you're shaking your head. You also? Okay.
I love the conversation Tuesday too about the wealth, and you saw that miserable category.
Yeah. Right
there. That's where my family was.
You were in the miserable, the bottom 3% in the U.S.
Yeah, you said the bottom 3%. I'm sure that a lot of my family and a lot of our neighbors were below that poverty line, so we weren't on that map because it's below the poverty line.
Even.
Exactly.
So my question, you said you have, I think, 3 siblings, or you're a sibling of 3. My question for you would be, you guys all got split up, and I'm not sure exactly how that worked out, if you guys were ever together at some point. But my question is, having knowing you've had siblings in the system as well, how did that kind of impact you and your way of living?
Yeah, it was nerve-wracking because I think, we grew up in North Philadelphia. It's a danger zone in general. So you kind of learn early, stick together, take care of each other, look out for each other. That's kind of like a normal thing. But when the system takes control of you, you can't do that, and so there's, in my mind, I'm like, I'm supposed to be like hurting and taking care of my younger siblings, and my next of kin is like 5 years younger than me. So, pretty significant when you're 10, right? She's like 5 years old. And they're stair steps, so it was like 5, 4, 3. And so it was nerve-wracking from the time I was 10 until I got out of the system, trying to, like, I guess psychologically or emotionally keep hold of some people that aren't there, So yeah, I think what it did though is, like, when I was moving around in group homes and moving from foster home to foster home, I still had my mind on my siblings, and so it probably stopped me from doing wild, crazy stuff, from crashing out.
I will say, and this is true for a lot of people in class who are, one of the things that makes you remarkable is that, like, you were taking care of them when you were up here as a student. So everyone else is studying, doing their thing, and and at one point in time, 2 of your brothers were up here living with you, man, as you
my
were
last year, 'cause I was only 18, right? So yeah, my last year they were, because they were still trying to find their way. So I brought them up here.
It's
introduced them to Sam.
It's pretty amazing, actually.